I was still in my scrubs. The smell of the hospital clinging to my clothes. My phone buzzed on the counter. Lighting up the dark kitchen. 11:51 p.m. It was a group text from my mother. Susan. The message was short. Jessica. After your refusal to help with Grace's party, your father and I have discussed it. We're in agreement. You are no longer welcome in this family. I read it twice. Not a question. Not an argument. A verdict. Seconds later, a new notification. My sister, Grace, had hearted the message. I didn't cry. I didn't text back why. My hands weren't even shaking. As a nurse practitioner, my job is to triage. You assess the wound. You stop the bleeding. And you act. Emotion is a luxury for later. This was a wound. So I triaged. It was 12:03 a.m. when I opened my laptop. The blue light cut through the dark apartment. I didn't go to our text thread. I went to my family folder. A folder that was really just a balance sheet of what I owed them for the privilege of existing. My mother, Susan, was a real estate agent. Her entire identity was built on being a top producer. A status-obsessed image that her silent investor, paid for. I found the first line item, Zillow Premier Agent subscription, $600 per month. My credit card. I clicked the link. Cancel subscription. My mouse hovered. And for a second, a wave of just terror washed over me. It was so strong it made me nauseous. A voice screamed in my head. You're the villain. You're destroying her. This is too far. Just close the laptop. Apologize. It was the guilt of the first boundary. That deep, primal fear that saying no isn't just a word. It's an act of war. I squeezed my eyes shut. I saw that hearted message from Grace. I saw the empty seats at my graduation. I took a breath, and I clicked confirm. The guilt didn't vanish. It just settled. I'd lived with their disappointment for 26 years. I figured I could live with my own guilt for one night. The next subscription was easier. MLS Access, $150 per quarter. Canceled. Then, I logged into my auto insurance portal, my policy, my name, but there, listed under vehicles, was her brand new Lexus? The one she said she had to have for client viewings. The one I'd been paying the premium on for a year? My name. My risk. I clicked remove vehicle. A pop-up asked for the reason. I typed owner is no longer a dependent. Effective immediately. I closed the laptop. It was 12:10 a.m. It took me less than 10 minutes to dismantle the financial scaffolding I'd spent 8 years building. This wasn't an emotional breakdown. It was an extraction. I finally understood you can't be no longer welcome in a family you were never really a part of. You were just the bank. And the bank was officially closed. That text wasn't the start of the war. It was just the first time I'd ever fired back. The real betrayal had happened 2 weeks earlier. I was sitting in the historic university auditorium. The heavy velvet of the doctoral hood draped over my shoulders. Doctor of Nurse Practitioner. DNP. I'd earned it. I'd worked 12-hour shifts in the ER while going to school full-time. When the dean called my name, I walked across the stage and scanned the reserved for family section. 3 empty seats. Stark and accusing. Right in the front row. My mother, Susan. My father, Michael. My sister, Grace. Not one of them. My friend Rachel found me after. Her own family cheering. You did it. Dr. Jess, she screamed. hugging me. Where are your parents? Stuck in traffic. I lied. The lie felt like ash in my mouth. Later that night, still in my cap and gown, eating leftover pizza on my apartment floor, the text finally came. Not congratulations. Not we're so sorry we missed it. It was Susan. Need $3,500. Grace's graduation party at the country club is going to be amazing. But the deposits are due Monday. I looked at my diploma. I looked at my bank account, which held a pathetic $4,500. I thought about the 3 empty seats. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't a family dynamic. It was an accounting error. I wasn't their daughter. I was the scapegoat. The provider, the one you load up with all the family's financial burdens and emotional labor, just so the golden child, my sister, Grace, can be light and shiny and perfect. The one they could invest all their hopes into. I finally saw my mother's psychology for what it was. Susan doesn't have children. She has supply. In her narcissistic ledger, I was the financial supply. Grace was the ego supply. One of us paid the bills. The other made her look good at the real estate office. We weren't a family. We were a portfolio. And I was done being the bad investment. I picked up my phone. I opened my banking app. I sent her $5. In the memo, I wrote, "For your budget." I thought that would be the end of it. I thought that tiny act of defiance was my victory. I had no idea it was just the opening shot. I didn't have to wait long. The $5 transfer was the first shot. The cancellations were the declaration of war. It took Susan exactly 12 hours to realize her real estate empire was offline. My phone lit up at 9 a.m. The first voicemail wasn't sad. It wasn't hurt. It was furious. "Jessica, I don't know what kind of childish game you're playing, but my Zillow Premier account is suspended. You fix this. You fix it now." The second one came 10 minutes later. Her voice was higher, cracking. "My insurance card was declined. I'm driving without insurance. Do you understand what you've done? You've put my entire business, my clients, at risk. How dare you?" I listened to them both. Sitting at my kitchen table, sipping my coffee, I was just documenting my nurse's training again. You don't just note the symptom, you note the time, the severity, the progression. This was the progression. Then came the text from Grace. The golden child. Mobilis said, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Mom is literally having a meltdown. You're destroying everything. You're ruining my graduation. This is supposed to be my time. And finally, just apologize and pay the money so we can be done with this. You're being so dramatic." I read her words. Pay the money. Not fix the relationship. Not what's wrong, just pay. It was clarifying. I never had a sister. I had a co-signer on the family's expectations. I didn't respond to any of them. I just saved the screenshots. The silence I offered them was a mirror. They were furious. They had to finally see themselves. The escalation didn't take long. By noon, my phone was buzzing with notifications from Facebook. Susan had gone public. She wrote a long, rambling post, full of misspellings and passive-aggressive grief. It's so sad when a child you gave everything to turns their back on you. We just wanted to celebrate our beautiful Grace. And now our family is under attack from within. We're just heartbroken. And then, the line that made my blood run cold. It makes you question everything. Some people's hearts are just as cold as their stethoscopes. She had tagged my hospital. She had tagged the director of nursing. She wasn't just venting. She was trying to get me fired. She was threatening my livelihood, the one thing I had that was truly mine. She was trying to put me in a position where I would be so desperate, I'd have to crawl back and beg for her forgiveness just to survive. She had underestimated me. She thought I was just a healer. She forgot I was also a survivor. This wasn't a family drama anymore. This was a threat, and I was going to handle it. The Facebook post was a mistake. A fatal, tactical error on her part. My mother had spent my entire life attacking my person, my choices, my weight, my grades, my apartment. But she had never, ever attacked my profession. That post, tagging my hospital, wasn't just an emotional outburst. It was an attempt to sever my lifeline. To take away my name, the DNP I had bled for. The license I had earned. The one thing that was mine. She had just given me permission to escalate. I picked up the phone and called Julia, my college roommate, now one of the sharpest family law attorneys in the state. "Hey, Jess," she said, her voice warm. "Don't tell me you're engaged." "Worse," I said. "I'm at war with my mother, and she just tried to get me fired." I emailed her the screenshots, the voicemails, the $5 transfer, the whole pathetic ledger. She was silent for a full minute. When she spoke again, her voice wasn't warm. It was sharp. It was the lawyer's voice. "Okay," she said. "This is harassment. The Facebook post is slander. We're sending a cease and desist today. But this joint account you've been paying into for her business expenses, I don't like it. You've been paying for her Zillow account, and her car, and her MLS access." I admitted. "Jessica," she sighed, "give me the login info for that account. You're too close to this. You're a nurse. You're trained to save things. I'm a lawyer. I'm trained to audit them. Let me be the bad guy." I sent her the credentials and, for the first time in 2 days, I felt a tremor of something other than anger. It was relief. Julia called me back 24 hours later. The grim tone in her voice told me it was bad. "It's not a joint account," she said. "No, hello? What do you mean I opened it with her at the bank?" "No, Jess," Julia said, and I could hear her clicking. "You thought you were opening a joint savings account? What Susan did was take that application and, behind your back, also apply for a credit card." My stomach went cold. "What? A $15,000 credit card? In your name only. Your social security number. Your credit. But her business as the shipping address. She's been using it for 3 months." I couldn't breathe. The party. The country club. "Oh. Yeah? The deposit for the club, $1,200. The DJ, $500. All on your new card. But that's not the worst part. Jess? How can there be a worse part? The very first charge," Julia said, her voice flat. "The day the card was activated. A $5,000 wire transfer. Not to the country club. Not to a party planner. It was wired to a private account. Her name, and her name only." I leaned against the wall. The pieces slammed into place. This wasn't about Grace's party. That was just the cover. My mother had a secret, a gambling problem, a hidden life. I didn't know. What I knew was that she had looked at her 2 daughters, the scapegoat and the golden child, and decided to commit a felony, using my name to pay off her own secret, while using Grace's party as the excuse. She hadn't just used me. She had stolen me. My name, my credit, my future. "Julia," I said. my voice shaking. But not with fear, with a terrible, cold clarity. What do we do now? Now, Julia's voice was lethal. Now, we're no longer just sending a cease and desist. We're reporting identity theft. We're reporting a crime. On Julia's advice, I didn't just call the credit card company. I filed a formal police report for identity theft. I faxed it to the bank's fraud department along with a signed affidavit. I didn't hear anything for 48 hours. And then, Saturday night, the night of Grace's amazing graduation party, my phone was quiet. I sat in my apartment, reading a medical journal. I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt still. My phone rang at 9:15 p.m. It was Julia. "Hey," she said. "Just a heads up. The bank's fraud manager is efficient. He's on site." "On site? Where?" "At the country club," Julia said. "He's there to verify the fraudulent charges, and he brought 2 plainclothes officers with him as a standard procedure. The party's over." Jess? I hung up and pictured it. The ballroom, the glitter, my mother, Susan, in her element, probably holding a glass of champagne, playing the role of the perfect host. And then, the interruption. I found out later, from a guest's video that went viral in our hometown, exactly how it happened. The music had just stopped for Susan to make a toast. She was raising her glass. And that's when the bank manager, a man in a crisp suit, flanked by 2 officers, approached her. "Mrs. Susan, I'm from the fraud department. I need to speak with you about the account funding this event." You could see the moment the camera zoomed in. The smile on my mother's face didn't just fade, it shattered. The guests went silent. Phones, already out to record the party, were now recording this. The humiliation, the whispers, "This is a mistake," Susan stammered. But the manager was already showing her the paperwork. The credit card, my name. "The account holder has filed a felony identity theft report. Ma'am, we're here to inform you that all payments for this event are being reversed, pending investigation." The DJ started unplugging his equipment. The caterers stopped serving. The party was over. My mother, the top producer, was exposed as a common thief in front of her entire social circle. The next day, my phone rang. It was my father. "Michael." His voice was small, weak. "Jessica," he whispered. "Your mother. She's a wreck. The club is threatening to sue us for the full amount. This is a mess." I said nothing. I just waited. "Listen," he said, clearing his throat. I'll send you $5,000. Right now. Just call the bank. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. A family mix-up. Just fix this." The bribe. The final, pathetic nail in the coffin. He wasn't apologizing. He was transacting. He was complicit. "Goodbye, Michael," I said, and hung up. That night, the real storm arrived. Frantic, desperate banging on my apartment door. It wasn't my mother's confident knock. It was the sound of a cornered animal. I looked through the peephole. It was Susan. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes red. Her top producer mask completely gone. She was just a desperate, ruined woman. "Jessica, please." She was sobbing through the door. They're going to press charges. I'll lose my license. You don't understand. You've ruined us. You've ruined Grace. Please. I opened the door. The new deadbolt slid back with a solid thunk. She looked at me, ready to launch into another plea. I didn't say a word. I just handed her the papers Julia had couriered over that afternoon. The first was the official cease and desist for harassment. The second was a copy of the police report. Her eyes scanned the words identity theft and fraud. You did this, I said. My voice wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was just a fact. Not me. You. Goodbye. Susan. I closed the door, and for the first time in my life, I slid the new deadbolt into place. The sound of it locking was the first real peace I'd ever known. 6 months passed. The legal case was resolved, not with a dramatic courtroom battle, but with the quiet, anticlimactic click of a lawyer's send button. Susan and Michael, faced with undeniable proof of a felony, had two choices: a public trial or a private settlement. They chose the settlement. They had to sell the house, the one I'd never quite felt at home in. They sold it to pay back the $15,000 in fraudulent debt and to cover Julia's legal fees. I heard they'd moved into a small rental and that Susan's real estate license was under review. My name was cleared. My credit was restored. The case was closed. That night, I sat in my apartment. It was the same apartment, but it felt different. It was quiet, not the anxious, waiting for the next text quiet, but a deep, settled peace. I brewed a cup of tea, opened my laptop, and pulled up my old budgeting spreadsheet, the one I'd lived by for years. My eyes scanned the rows: rent, utilities, student loans, and then family support. The row was long, a digital scar tissue of payments stretching back years. Zillow, the Lexus, Grace's tuition, emergency money. I looked at that row, at the thousands and thousands of dollars I had poured into a black hole, trying to buy affection from people who didn't even like me. I thought about the money. I thought about the empty seats at my graduation. I thought about the hearted text. And I right-clicked. My mouse hovered over the delete row button. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I just felt done. It was the last string. I clicked. The row vanished. The numbers on the spreadsheet recalculated. And my savings total suddenly looked a lot healthier. I leaned back. On the wall across from me, hanging in a simple black frame, was my nurse practitioner's license. My name, my title, my identity, the one I had earned, the one no one could forge, or steal, or take away. The city hummed outside my window. The silence in my apartment was absolute, and for the first time in my life, I realized it wasn't the sound of being alone. It was the sound of being free.